Level 1. The beginning. You're born on a Tuesday in March, and within an hour of your arrival, the neonatologist has a conversation with your parents that they weren't expecting. Your head is slightly larger than typical for a newborn. Your limbs are shorter, the upper arms and thighs, particularly, a specific ratio of limb to trunk that the doctor recognizes. An X-ray confirms it. The appearance of your long bones, the way the cartilage is developing, is diagnostic. Achondroplasia. The most common form of dwarfism in the world, affecting roughly 1 in every 25,000 births, caused by a single spontaneous mutation in a gene called FGFR3, the fibroblast growth factor receptor 3, which controls how cartilage converts to bone during growth. In most of the body, this process is slowed dramatically. The trunk develops relatively normally. The limbs, the skull base, and the face don't receive the same signal. Here's the part your parents didn't know when they walked into that hospital. Roughly 80% of children with achondroplasia are born to parents of average height. The mutation didn't come from either of them. It happened spontaneously during cell division. A single letter changed in a gene, producing a child who will grow up in a world built entirely around the dimensions of people who don't look like them. You go home 4 days later. Your parents go home with a diagnosis, a pile of medical literature, and a referral to a specialist. And with you, mostly with you. Level 2. The logistics of being small. You're 3 years old and you've already figured out more about spatial problem solving than most adults will think about in a lifetime. The toilet is too high. The sink is too high. The steps outside are too deep. Your bed requires a running jump and a technique you've been refining for 6 months. You've learned to use the bottom drawer of the kitchen unit as a step, to hook your elbow over the edge of the counter to pull yourself up, to communicate needs in a house that wasn't built with your dimensions in mind. Your parents adapt everything they can. Step stools in every room, hooks at your height, light switches with extenders, a car seat modified for your specific proportions. The modifications are practical, systematic, and constant. Every new environment you enter, every new building, every new house you visit requires a rapid assessment. Where's the step? How high is the sink? Can I reach the door handle from the inside? You don't think of this as a burden yet. You're 3. This is just how rooms work. You figure them out the way all children figure out their environments, with curiosity and persistence and occasional frustration. The frustration is mostly when something should be simple and isn't. When the thing you need is 12 inches above where your hands reach. When there's no step. When nobody thought about the fact that a person your height might need to use this room too. Level 3. The school years. You're 7, and school introduces a specific kind of complexity that the step stools didn't prepare you for. Other children. Children your age are somewhere between 45 and 52 inches tall. You're 36. The physical difference is visible to anyone from across a room, and children, who are still learning the social rules about what to say and what not to say, approach this difference with varying levels of tact. Some are genuinely curious in a way that's easy to answer. Others stare in a way that's been happening since before you could name it. A few say things that require your parents to have conversations with their parents. You learn something important in 2nd grade that you'll carry your entire life. You learn that the way you introduce yourself to a situation determines the situation. When you walk into a room and make eye contact first, and speak first, and claim the space as yours from the beginning, the room adjusts to you. When you wait for it to adjust on its own, it doesn't always. You join the school's drama club. Not because anyone encouraged you particularly, but because you notice the stage is the one place in the school where everyone's looking in the same direction anyway, and that direction might as well be at you. You're good at it. You have a big voice for your frame, which the drama teacher tells you is an asset. You file this away. The physical challenges of school are real and specific. The playground equipment assumes a particular reach and height to use safely. The monkey bars are designed for arms that are longer than yours. The slide ladder has rungs spaced for a stride that doesn't match your leg length. You figure out alternatives, different routes up, different techniques, different ways of using equipment that wasn't designed with your body in mind. This skill, finding the alternative route to the same destination, will turn out to be one of the most useful things school teaches you, and the school didn't mean to teach it. Your desk chair requires a footrest. The school takes 3 months to provide after your parents request it. 3 months of your feet dangling, which causes the specific lower back ache that becomes familiar over years of furniture built for someone else. When the footrest finally arrives, it's a standard box wrapped in non-slip material. It works perfectly. It cost about £4. 3 months and £4 to solve a problem your parents flagged on day 1. You will spend your entire life marveling at how slowly the world gets around to simple solutions. Level 4. The medical reality. You're 11, and a conversation with your specialist introduces a word you've heard before but never had to think about directly: spinal stenosis. Achondroplasia affects more than height. The spinal canal, the space through which the spinal cord runs, is narrower than average in people with this condition. For most, this is manageable throughout childhood. For some, as the body grows and the spine develops, the narrowing becomes significant enough to compress the spinal cord itself, causing pain, numbness, weakness, and in severe cases, neurological complications that require surgery. Your imaging shows the narrowing is moderate. Your neurologist puts you on a monitoring schedule every 18 months, checking whether it's progressing. You join a list of things to watch: spine, foramen magnum, the opening at the base of the skull where the spinal cord connects to the brain, which is also narrower in achondroplasia and requires monitoring in childhood for potentially dangerous compression. This is the part of this condition that the world doesn't see when it sees you. The external presentation, the height, the proportions, is what draws attention. The internal medical landscape, the ongoing monitoring, the surgical interventions some people with this condition require, the sleep studies for obstructive sleep apnea, which affects a significant number of people with achondroplasia due to the midface structure, is invisible. You have a sleep study this year. It confirms mild sleep apnea. You start sleeping with a CPAP device, a mask, and a machine that keeps your airway open through the night. You are 11 years old and you sleep with a machine on your face. You get used to it faster than you expected. Humans adapt to almost anything faster than they expect. Level 5, the teenager. 14 years old, and the gap between your world and the assumed world has a different quality now. Secondary school is a social environment running on appearance and belonging, and navigating it at 4 feet and growing slowly while everyone else hits puberty and shoots upward is its own specific experience. The height difference, which was noticeable at 7, is more pronounced at 14. You're at a height most of your peers pass through around age 8. You've developed something over the years that takes most people much longer to learn, if they learn it at all. Radical practicality about what you can and can't control. You cannot control the height of the world's light switches. You can control whether you carry a compact step in your bag, which you do. You cannot control whether strangers stare in shopping centers. You can control how long you spend thinking about strangers who stare in shopping centers, which is approximately 0 seconds, a discipline that took a while to develop and that you now consider one of your more useful skills. Dating at 14 is complicated for everyone. For you, it carries the additional weight of knowing that whoever you're interested in will have to make a decision about what they think about being with someone who doesn't look like what they expected, and you'll know from their response to you early on exactly what kind of person they are. You've started thinking of it as efficient. The ones who don't look twice are the only ones worth looking at twice. Travel introduces its own encyclopedia of new problems this year. Your first solo flight, a school trip to another city, involves a security scanner you have to ask to be hand-searched through because the body scan machine is calibrated for heights you don't reach. A flight attendant offers to help you put your bag in the overhead bin with the particular overcareful manner of someone unsure whether helping is appropriate or offensive. You tell her the bin height is genuinely impossible for you and you'd appreciate the help, and she does it, and that's the end of it. You learn on that trip that most friction comes from other people being uncertain about how to behave around you, and that removing their uncertainty, just being direct about what you need, removes most of the friction almost immediately. You get faster at it every year. Level 6, the adult world. You're 24, and the working world has its own version of all the same problems, except now the stakes are higher and the accommodations less automatic. Job interviews where you arrive and watch the interviewer recalibrate their expression before they remember to keep it neutral. Offices where the accessible toilet is a significant walk from your workspace. Meetings where the whiteboard is 6 inches above where you can write comfortably, which means either asking someone to write for you or dragging a chair to the wall. And the choice between visibility and convenience is one you make daily. You've become very good at the accommodation conversation, the direct, matter-of-fact negotiation about what you need and why, conducted without apology and without excess explanation. You've found that people respond to directness better than to hinting. You say what you need. Most people, when you're clear, provide it without drama. The physical toll is more present now than it was at 20. The spinal stenosis has progressed to the point where your neurosurgeon recommends a decompression procedure, a surgery to create more space around the spinal cord. You have it at 22. The recovery is 8 weeks. The result is a significant reduction in the chronic back pain that you'd stopped noticing because it had been there so long. The absence of pain turns out to be louder than the pain was. You also learn at 24 about a drug called vosoritide, approved by the FDA in 2021, the first medication to actually target the FGFR3 mutation underlying achondroplasia itself, shown in clinical trials to increase growth velocity in children with the condition. It came too late for you, but it exists now. Children being diagnosed today have something you didn't have, a treatment that addresses the root cause rather than just managing consequences. Level 7. The view from here. You're 32, and you've spent 3 decades in a world that was built for someone else. Here is what you know about that world after 32 years of navigating it. It gets things wrong constantly. Not maliciously, mostly. Just thoughtlessly, in the way that design gets things wrong when it starts from a single assumption about who will use it and never questions the assumption. Light switches at 48 inches, ATM keypads at 60, pedestrian crossing buttons at heights that require jumping if you're below a certain reach. All of it designed by people who never had to think about what it feels like to reach for something and find air. You've developed, over 32 years, an encyclopedic knowledge of the geography of every environment you enter, where the step is, which counter has a lower section, whether the accessible entrance is actually accessible or whether it's technically accessible in a way that required no input from anyone who uses it. You've become an expert in a subject that shouldn't require expertise, which is simply existing in spaces built for other people. You've also built a life that doesn't wait for the world to get its measurements right, a career you're good at, relationships with people who saw you quickly, a home modified to the specifications of exactly one person, where every switch and shelf and surface is at exactly the height that makes sense, and where the experience of simply reaching for things without calculating the distance is a daily, small, unremarkable pleasure you don't take for granted. And somewhere right now, a new parent is sitting in a hospital with a neonatologist who is explaining something to them they weren't expecting. They're hearing words they've never heard before. They're holding a baby who will grow up to be someone who figures out every room they enter before they've been in it 30 seconds. They're going to worry. That's what new parents do. They're going to spend the next few years learning all the ways the world gets its measurements wrong. And then they're going to watch their child figure out every single one of them.